Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Silver, 50 years ago, today. Let's explore. Yes, what was the state of silver 50 years ago today? Well, I tell you, it is one wonder. That's a long time ago for sure. Ancient history to some. But boy, in many ways, it's just like yesterday for others. And what exactly was silver doing in 1970? That's right. Well, silver prices have been kind of all over the map that year. We saw silver go up almost just above $2 at the beginning of the year, and then it had taken a turn for the worse. It got down to as low as $1.56 by the beginning of the summer. And then towards the end of the year, after a couple more upswings and dips, it's pretty volatile. And by this very time, in this very day, it got to $1.60. That's right. And it's still pretty good considering that silver had been taken out of circulation in our money. That's right, our dollars. This is a silver quarter from 1960, 10 years prior, and it was composed of 90% silver and was utilized for exchanges for goods and services every single day. These coins were used for transactions. Yes, indeed. Silver. It just was taken for granted as being money and all of our change. But nonetheless, the metallic content contained in these coins is really kind of what backed the value of them. Until we found out that the cost of silver, just like copper these days, is now becoming too expensive to include in our currency. So the composition was changed. And in 1965, it was removed and turned to clad, which is the vast majority copper. And that is the case today for our quarters, dimes, and half dollars, even though half dollars these days are not intended for circulation. But make no mistake, it was at a time when we are starting to see silver prices creep up even more and more. As like I said, at the beginning of the year, we saw the prices get up to the high dollar mark. In other words, almost $2. In fact, it did skirt up above $2 for a very brief amount of time, twice during the beginning of the year in 1970, 50 years ago. But when you think about it, the amount of silver contained in 4 quarters, 10 dimes, and 2 half dollars is about 0.72 ounces of pure silver or actual silver weight. How does that compare to the cost of silver, utilization in our currency? That's 3/4 of an ounce, $1 for about 3/4 of an ounce. But then if you take into account what is an actual silver dollar, which these were not used in circulation during that time either, but nonetheless, the amount of silver in a dollar coin is 0.77 ounces of actual silver weight. So this would have been potentially, there was a thought that this could have been minted in 1964. There's actually evidence that they were talking about it, planning on doing it, but it never came to fruition. But this silver dollar contains more silver than 10 of these, 4 of these, or 2 of these. That's right. And I think that's part of the reason why they took them out of circulation, among other reasons as well. But nonetheless, $1, and now we see that by 1970, the value of silver, the price of silver, had gone up to a point you could definitely see that it was removed by any stretch from any kind of currency that we're using, and it started to do that in 5 years earlier and more. So then we saw silver at $1.60 per ounce as of the time of this year, late November of 1970. So if you take a look back, well, let's compare it to other things that were going on 50 years ago in the economy and the price of things. Richard Milhouse Nixon was President of the United States in 1970. The Vice President was Spiro T. Agnew. The population of the United States of America was 205 million people. The life expectancy was about 70.8 years. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, the high was 842. That's right, 842. The low was 669 that year. Federal spending was $195.65 billion. Wow. That was the federal spending for that year. The federal debt was $380.9 billion. Inflation was pretty high, 6.5%. The consumer price index was 38.8. And unemployment, though, was low at 3.5%. That gives you an idea of what the economy was like back in 1970, 50 years ago. Yes, indeed. And by this time, there were still probably plenty of these coins in circulation, although I'm sure that more and more people were seeing that the price of silver being $1.60 per ounce, it made sense to hoard these and to hold on to them because they were going up in price. Yes, indeed. Nowadays, you hardly ever see this stuff in circulation, and most people find silver coins that are being passed on through banks through bankroll hunts. So what were the prices of things back in 1970? Well, a cost for a new home was $26,000. $26,600 was the average cost of a new home. And yes, indeed, the cost for a new car, though not listed here, my guess it was probably, around, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, depending on kind of car that you drove. The median household income was $8,734. The cost of a first-class stamp was 6 cents. The cost of a gallon of regular gasoline was 36 cents per gallon. The cost for a dozen eggs was 62 cents. And the cost for a gallon of milk was $1.15. Wow. Pretty amazing to think about where the cost of that was for a cost of a gallon of milk and compared to today's prices. What is the lesson we can learn from this? Well, I believe it is quite clear, and that is silver maintains its value in the long run. And even though we've seen price fluctuations, we've seen the price fluctuations as well in 1970 when you take that into account comparatively from $2 to really just above $1.55 for the low. That's a pretty big swing for that particular time, considering the value of the dollar and what you could buy with a dollar back then compared to these days. And obviously, we were in the Federal Reserve System back then. We did see inflation rise pretty steadily back then, and it was something else to see. But nonetheless, silver 50 years ago today was something to behold. And I believe that when you hold coins like this that have the year 1964, which is the last year that silver was utilized in our coins and our circulating coins, except for the half dollar, which was 40% until 1970. This is something of historical significance. And it just goes to show you that constitutional silver, such as these, Roosevelt dimes, which you still see this very same exact design on the coins used even today. 50 years later, this design is still in existence exactly as it was. The difference is, here you can see, it's missing that clad layer there. And that's because you know that there is true value in silver. And being able to see it in this form and known that it was circulated as money, I think is quite telling and quite representative, because the price of these per dollar these days, well, when you take into account inflation, it may not exactly match up, but for all intents and purposes, without going through and doing the math, I think one can make the argument that silver has done a better job at preserving its value than the dollar has, for sure. The dollar is a depreciating asset through the course of 50 years, for sure, and much longer than that. And silver, even though it has wild movements in the price, it has maintained its value. Silver, 50 years later, 50 years ago, it is still a constant. And that's how we should view silver for the long term and understand its value there. So I hope you found this video informative. Let me know. Post your thoughts in the comment section below. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.